Good evening, everyone. My name is Gustav Graham. I'm the CEO of Pila Pharma. Today is August 28th, and we just released our half-year report yesterday, so I will start talking a little bit about this in a minute. For those of you who don't know us, we are a small biotech based in Malmö in Sweden, and we are developing a new type of oral drug for type 2 diabetes and potentially other metabolic conditions as well, such as potentially obesity. We will see pretty soon. We presented at Aktiespararna not too long ago in June, and even though it feels like it is a long time ago, it's not that far back. So if you want a more deep dive without half-year updates, then I suggest you have a look at that. So I just want to run through what we have been doing in the first half of the year, and I will come back with a more formal introduction and a little bit about how we see this whole obesity pandemic in a minute as well. So we have a relatively stable cash burn at 3.4 million SEK. This is more or less equivalent to what we had in 2023, and we ended the quarter with about 2.5 million SEK in the bank. And I think what's worthy to note here is that we have made some larger organizational changes in the company during the spring. We had 2 board members leave and 2 new ones come and join. And as well, our founder, as well as previous CEO, Ms. Dorte Graham, she has taken the chairmanship of the company, and subsequently the board has appointed me to succeed her as CEO of the company. We have had a interesting first half of the year where we have been preparing for our next trial. So the next trial will be a phase 2A trial, which is what is generalized as a safety trial. This trial will basically be aiming to assess how high dosage levels that overweight type 2 diabetics can handle with our drug. In addition to this, we were notified by some experts that by including a number of extra participants in the study, we could also get an efficacy readout on whether or not the drug can potentially regulate body weight. Now, of course, with this huge interest globally that is coming into weight loss drugs, we thought this was too good of an opportunity to miss. So during the summer, the board and Dorte and myself, we convened to discuss how can we progress and secure this fast. And within a couple of days, we made a quick sounding with some existing investors and some external new investors, and we secured 10 million Swedish kronor, which is enough to run this study. So we're very happy about that. When everyone else was on the beach, we were working hard, and we secured cash to make this trial happen with efficacy endpoints. So that, of course, is very interesting. And that also means that there are some implications to the numbers that we have reported recently, yesterday as well. So what we're looking at here is that we, of course, have some extra shares that have been issued now as well. So the total outstanding amount of shares are now closer to 27 million. And we also have more than 10 million Swedish kronor in the bank. And I can say that we moved very fast when we had this money secured, and we have already engaged with the CRO that will assist us to conduct this next trial. And of course, we are super excited because now we can see that we can really make some progress, and hopefully we can create some real shareholder value. So that is, of course, super good. We still have the founder, Ms. Dorte Graham, and a Finnish family office, Vimpo, as the largest shareholders. But other than that, we have a pretty diverse investor base. And of course, we're always looking to welcome new investors. So if you find this interesting today, I'm more than happy to, of course, answer questions here tonight or on email. And hopefully you will consider taking a position in this. And so I will get back to a little bit about what we do. So we are a small biotech, and we are developing a new type of drug based on a TRPV1 antagonist. Now, this is interesting because traditionally TRPV1 antagonists have been associated with pain treatment. And of course, many people in Sweden might know that AstraZeneca back in the day were very heavy into investigating the effects of TRPV1 antagonists. So we, the founder of the company, Ms. Dorte Gram, she discovered a new mechanism during her PhD thesis at Novo Nordisk in Denmark some 25 years back. And this is the foundation of the company that we have today. We were founded in 2014, and quickly we managed to in-license a molecule that had already been in clinical trials so that we could skip having to do extensive animal testing, which is of course very costly, but also takes a long time. So this is where we are right now. The company itself has conducted 2 phase 2A trials already. This was mainly because the authorities asked us to assess this type of molecule in type 2 diabetics, thinking that, that they already have quite a lot of issues and problems. So we don't want to, how can we say, impose them with more problems. This type of drug has traditionally been associated with some side effects, primarily hypothermia. So basically people would spontaneously have temperature increases. We believe that temperature increases can be a good thing if they are managed well. Temperature increase could, at least hypothetically, be considered as an indication of energy expenditure, which of course would be beneficial if you're looking to lose weight. We also have a track for erythromelalgia, which is a rare disease. We got an FDA orphan drug designation a couple years back, and this is for this is a painful target. So this is something we're still assessing, and a clinical development plan has been developed. We are as well engaged with a professor at Uppsala University up north of Stockholm for assessing the effect on development of this cardiovascular disease called abdominal aorta aneurysm in mice. So this is still pretty early phase, but it is, since it's a cardiovascular disease, it is of great interest to us, since it is likely linked to many of the other metabolic issues that we see in obesity as well. And of course, we are hoping that we can progress all of these within the next couple of years to hopefully get partnerships with larger pharmaceutical companies and really make a more solid foundation of our company. So coming back to where we founded, we were founded in 2014, and we in-licensed the company, in-licensed the molecule in 2016. And this phase 2 stage lead compound is called XEND-0501. And we have, yes, as I've already said, we have a Danish private subsidiary that is where we basically run our trial expenses through. So why are we doing this? Well, I think it's oblivious to everyone that there are one problem in this world, and it is that we are becoming many more. We eat a lot more, and we become older, and subsequently we become a lot more sick. So diabetes as a whole has been on the rise for years. The main organizations that estimate these are almost always underestimating the actual growth, and so while these numbers may seem pretty extreme, I would personally actually expect them to be higher. Now, of course, the development in the western part of the world has been bad for a long time. So what we mainly see here is that there's going to be problems in less developed parts of the world where they cannot afford or have access to, let's say, refrigerated injectable solutions. So this is where we come into the picture. We have an oral tablet that is super stable. It's easy to produce, it's easy to distribute, it's easy to store. Generally speaking, this is a product that fits all the bars for what you would like to have as a clinician, but equally so as a patient. So what we need to show now, of course, is that it works and that it's safe to ingest. And just to give you an idea of the market, so I showed this slide in my presentation in June, and I wouldn't imagine that it has changed dramatically since, but we're looking at potentially 3 different markets that all have some sort of link together, and they're all above $100 billion, which is, of course, more than 1,000 billion Swedish krona, which seems pretty silly to even say out loud. So we're dealing with absolutely enormous amounts here, and of course, this is why you see companies going on acquisition sprees left, right, and center these years, because anything that even remotely resembles effect or efficacy on weight regulation is going to be attractive. right now we have two very dominant players in the market with their injectable solutions, and of course, there's a huge amount of larger pharma companies that are looking to enter this market. And theoretically, we could potentially be a candidate for them, of course, if we manage to showcase some good data. So a little bit about the thinking behind why we're pursuing this new weight loss track. So this is an undisclosed and unpublished piece of information that Ms. Dorte Graham has had for some time, and it basically showcases an animal model where these diabetic rats that obviously very spontaneously become very fat and diabetic very quickly, they have been treated with a molecule that is extremely similar to ours. This molecule is also a TOPV1 antagonist, and with this model, they have shown that these rats that actually got the molecule did not take on weight as quickly or as heavily as the ones that got placebo. Now, this is interesting because this type of model has been used in translational studies as well, and we've seen that if these results are something like this in the mouse model, it likely translates to body weight loss in a human model. So that gives us some confidence that if we can go enough up in dose, we will start to see effects on body weight regulation as well. And so, of course, this fits perfectly into the next trial that we're going to use, where we're going to assess how high we can go in type 2 diabetic patients. In our last trial, I just wanted to add this as well, because I think this is very important, because obesity and diabetes and cardiovascular disease, to a large extent, is all very interlinked. So what we've seen in the last trial that we conducted was a very, very significant effect on a cardiovascular biomarker called ANP. Now, this is a biomarker that is associated with the risk of heart failure and hypertension. So, of course, I mean, you don't die from obesity, but you die from the comorbidities, and heart failure is definitely one of the comorbidities that kills the most people and is the most expensive to treat. So if we can replicate or even increase the reduction, or like largely the reduction in the next trial when we test with higher dose levels and with extended testing period, I would feel very confident to say that this drug will find a place in the market, if nothing else, as a cardiovascular drug. So of course, having these kinds of data it gives us a lot of confidence when we have to go and talk to larger pharma companies, because they are looking for molecules that can both regulate body weight, but equally so can also be beneficial on other parameters. Now, I just want to briefly touch upon this, because when I was trying to prepare my financial half-year report, I was looking around on the web, and it seems as if many investors have picked up as well that we are trying to move into obesity as well. So we have been pretty well performing this year to date, and Avanza very kindly put us on #1 for biotechs on their first North list. So very pleasing to see that. Of course, I only checked this on Sunday, so bear with me if it has changed marginally since. But I think even more impressively is that we are #2 across all lists in Sweden when it comes to biotech and healthcare. So of course that gives us an indication of how interesting this project is to many people, and hopefully some of you who are watching tonight will also find an interest in the company. Now, we were also awarded, I got an email from Nordnet the other day just saying that we had been included on their top 10 list for most traded stocks in July, and in very good company, as you can see, with some very big companies. Of course, we're nowhere near their amounts of investors, but hopefully we can get there one day. And yeah, we've already seen quite a huge influx of new investors coming in the last couple of months, which is of course very pleasing, because we feel like we have such an interesting project, and we of course hope that many of you would like to be in on the ride. So we have a great board of directors. This was newly assembled in April. We have the founder Dorte, and of course she's also a major shareholder. We have Richard, which has a great background in finance, and we have Julia and Lasse, who both have very high-level experience from big pharma companies, and specifically with how to market products and how to develop late-stage market access strategies. So these people are, of course, going to be a tremendous help for us when we're moving forward and we need to stay the course. And the CEO team, or the management team as well, it's myself as the CEO, and Dorte, she's working chairman, if you will, where she's also occupying the CSO position, basically overlooking all the clinical development and making sure that we are getting the results that we need. So with that, I would like to say thank you. I know it was a little bit brief and maybe a little bit rushed, but I hope you have a good idea of what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and that we're in a financially good position right now. And we are, of course, excited for the second half of the year.
Thank you for that, Gustav. We received some questions in the chat.
Lovely.
One of them is, if you can summarize again, why this is better than Novo Nordisk's and Eli Lilly's.
Well, that remains to be seen. I mean, we're only entering phase 2A, so we're of course hopeful that if we can dose high enough and it's tolerable, that we will see effects on regulating body weight, as well as long-term blood sugar and other established parameters. So I mean, I think the key element here is that we're an oral solution. So I mean, from many people that we talk with, they indicate that they would like to avoid needles if they can. So I think oral solutions are going to be the future, and that's what we hear from peers in the pharma world as well. That most of them are looking for solutions. For the next generation solutions, they're going to be oral, as far as we hear.
But I believe Novo Nordisk has developed an oral version of their drug.
Yeah, I think the problem with the GLP-1s and the peptides that they are producing right now is that in an oral form, it requires 10 times as much API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, as an injectable. So a lot of the drug is lost in the stomach when you take the pill, and of course they can sell as much as they can produce right now. So it makes way less sense from a business perspective to use API on producing pills when you could do 10 times as many injectable treatments.
Yeah, and the GLP-1s also have some side effects. If you could tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so from my knowledge, GLP-1s are of course they have these side effects. The commonly known side effects are gastrointestinal. So that's of course nausea. It's constipation. It's diarrhea. It's generally things you wouldn't want to live the rest of your life with. And I mean, this is of course intended to be chronic treatment. So I think that's maybe a position where we have an edge as well, since that if we can limit it to mild hypothermia, or at least a sensation where patients feel better, I think that's a major advantage in the short and the long term run.
And what is your strategy when it comes to out licensing to partners, and what do you want to see in a partner?
Well, that's a good question. I think we've always emphasized that we generally would prefer a partner that has some sort of a track record when it comes to small molecules, which is what we have, because then we know that they know how to go about it. And of course, we're not at the stage yet where we can say exactly when a partnership will come around, but I think a lot of pharma companies are keeping a close eye on what we do in this phase 2A, because there are really not that many late stage projects on the market for obesity and type 2 diabetes, and there's still a lot of players that don't have anything in their pipelines. So I would say that we're cautiously optimistic, and we will see. Perhaps it will even be after the phase 2A. But more realistically, and this is what we heard prior to COVID, for example, is that they want to see phase 2B data. So that's likely going to be a couple of years away.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, but can you give some color on the IP situation?
So I mean, we have use patents for treatment of obesity and type 2 diabetes in the US and Europe, and I know that Dorte is working very hard on optimizing the patent strategy as we speak, and this is of course something that we will communicate as soon as we have any news.
And do you anticipate to start with the US market or the European market?
That's hard to say because, I mean, realistically, we need to move through the phases before we consider where this drug has a place. I think, of course, what you generally see is that many companies start out in the US because the prices they can charge there are way higher. And of course, I mean, we see potential for us to kind of undercut competitors on the US market as well when it comes to price. And but generally speaking, I mean, it's such a huge market. I mean, we're talking 500 million diabetics, but likely 1 billion, obese people globally by next year. So, I mean, if this works, I don't think we will, much like the others, I don't think we will have issues to produce and sell it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, and you mentioned the temperature increase.
Mm-hmm.
How large effect is this? Will I increase to 39 degrees or 40? Or?
Well, that depends where you start, of course. But I mean, generally speaking, what we've seen has been mild increases, so like half a degree. So, but I mean, I think it's interesting as well that half a degree temperature increase. I mean, it wears off during the day. So maybe I wouldn't take it before going to sleep, but let's say you took it in the morning. I think that it could work as a boost to boost your metabolism in the morning. I think that would be the ideal way of ingestion for sure.
And how is the M&A landscape within this area with obesity and diabetes?
Crazy. crazy. I mean, I've almost lost track of how many deals are coming and going. But it seems as if, at least now since Q1, it's been a little bit more quiet, but I think it's because there's really not been that many companies left to buy. I mean, there was such a rush in the fall last year and in Q1 this year that nowadays, I mean, you see a lot of ventures, especially in the US, that are really trying to syndicate fast in order to company create and try and get something built up very, very fast that they can sell off because there's a lot of buyers. So the M&A market is red hot, I would say. Generally speaking, though, what we see is that many companies are way more early stage than we are. So they're preclinical or perhaps phase 1. And there's this very, very small amount that are listed. There's a couple of companies in Denmark that are listed, of course, aside from Novo Nordisk, but their valuations have gone up tremendously now as well because investors have started speculating whether they could be acquisition targets. So if you're looking for perhaps the world's cheapest obesity medication investment solution, then I think we might be the one.
And of course, it's a long way to the market, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But do you see your potential drug to replace the ones of Eli Lilly or Novo Nordisk, or to use as a maintenance therapy while going on that?
I mean, maintenance therapy is a good. I mean, I think that's always up to the doctor, right? I mean, to the clinic. I mean, I think we just want to produce and develop the best product that we possibly can, and of course, where that fits in is also very difficult to say where the market is going to be. I mean, 10 years ago, obesity wasn't even designated a disease almost. So the market has changed tremendously in 10 years and in 5 years even. And I think it's very hard to say where it's going to be by 2030, perhaps. But what we do see is that there's a lot of combination treatments in pipelines around the world. And so, of course, I mean, our molecule could potentially be of interest to pharma companies for the purpose of combining with something else. But that remains to be seen. Since it's a small molecule, it should be possible. But as a standalone, I wouldn't say it would be necessarily a replacement or as a direct competitor to the injectables, because their purpose is to generate heavy weight loss very fast. So what patients experience as well is that they lose a lot of weight, but a lot of it is muscle mass as well. So my sensation from the industry is that it's moving more towards kind of sustainable weight loss, where you lose weight a bit more gradually, but it can also retain some more muscle mass, which is of course very important, because as you get older, you lose muscle mass, and if you've lost a lot of muscle mass and then let's say break a leg, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to build that muscle back in the rest of your lifetime, I think.
And a last question: what should investors look out for in the future, in the near future?
So we are preparing the clinical trial application now with the partner Lindus that we have signed the agreement with in July. And as soon as that being sent in, we will of course notify the market with the press release. And then, I mean, the expectation is that before the end of the year, that we will hopefully receive, an approval from the ethics committee in the UK to start the trial, and then we will start. So I think the main thing to be excited about is that there will be progress, and we will be showcasing what this molecule can do now at higher dose levels and as well on extended time frames.
Thank you for joining us, Gustav, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Yes, of course. Thank you.
Bye.